take a look at the three big media stories. First, social media. Facebook has uncovered emails that appear to show CEO Mark Zuckerberg's connection to problematic privacy issues. Joining us now, Tom Rogers, WinView executive chairman and the former CEO of TiVo, and Ed Lee, a New York Times corporate media reporter and a CNBC contributor. So this isn't like, I watched that fake video. I liked it so much, and then they find out it's not. It's not really Mark Zuckerberg, right, Ed? You didn't put that together, did you?
No, that was not my people.
That was
clever, though. I have to say, it was pretty clever.
It was very.
I would have used, what was the actor's name? Eisenberg. I would have used him.
Eisenberg, the guy who played him in the movie.
I see him, and I think he's not really. I like that Zuckerberg better. Anyway, what's the latest with this privacy stuff, Ed? Just bring us.
Well, so there was a leak of, the FTC's looking at what they want to get out of Facebook here. It's going to be more fines. It's going to be maybe even some structural changes. I don't know. The story in the Journal didn't offer enough about what these emails may or may not have said. So I think we're still a little bit left in the dark. If Zuckerberg himself is partly to blame for this, he had a direct role in this. They want to name him in that suit. That could really change the game. I think it's a way to. They're going to get some kind of a settlement. This could be seen as leverage.
Tom, you've been big here at NBC, CNBC. You run other companies. Which company, if you were running any of these that are in the crosshairs, which would you be like maybe looking for an exit because you don't want to, you're afraid of what's to come? Which one is most vulnerable, do you think?
Well, vulnerability on the antitrust front in terms of breaking this up, I think that Facebook probably is in the greatest crosshairs.
Really? Not Google. Google is so omnipotent.
Yeah, but because of Instagram.
Omnipotent.
Yeah, but people see an easier way to do it with Facebook as opposed to Google. Nobody's quite sure how to do it. But I actually think the whole privacy issue is actually one where they'd like this to be addressed. They'd like government to step in and figure this out.
Yeah, that's what I feel like, too. I don't think just being good at what you do necessarily means you need to be broken up. But the privacy issue is something that wouldn't be addressed necessarily through antitrust, but should be addressed, like maybe not in the European style, but some way.
Well, all these companies are existing just fine under the European privacy structure. Europe addressed this. They put it in place. There's really no reason that they couldn't live with that same environment
here's
here.
A different one. They'd like it if it were the same as the European privacy standards that they already comply with.
Right.
What if it's something different, like Mark Warner, who was on our air yesterday, Senator Mark Warner, suggesting that they should be held to the same standards that CNBC or any one of the newspapers are held to? That's a much bigger problem for them, because to be responsible for anything that's going on your platform,
well, that goes beyond privacy. That goes to the issue of, are they responsible for the content that goes through them?
But I think it's hand in hand. If you're responsible for privacy, perhaps you're responsible for what's on your platform, too.
And that's a very tough standard to hold them to, because they don't have control over what users put up there. And to the extent users are going to look to put up fake videos, they have an extraordinarily difficult time policing that. And the line between what's satire and what's the deep fake that is somehow reputationally harmful, who's going to police that? The government going to police that? It's really hard to do. For me, Washington Post chronicles President Trump telling 10,000 lies over the course of administration. But what do? They call it out. They see lies, they call it out. I think what media is going to have to start doing is calling out the fakes, the top 10 fakes of the day. They get a lot of distribution. People aren't sure what's real, what's not real. It's up to the media organizations to have a regular profile that is a very easy reference point for people to get to know what's real and what's not real out there, because the ease with which they can put out fake stuff is only going to increase.
My colleagues and other papers have done that. They've actually pointed out this is either a fake account or this is a troll. And then Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, they take them down after the media reports them.
But it's the media's job to police there.
Yeah, but for all the ones that we find, what are the ones that we don't find, or the ones that they don't find?
This is a highly produced segment, so that I'm unable to screw it up.
Okay,
so it's called Squawkers and Talkers. Did you know that's what we're doing right now?
Where there's a will, there's a way.
We're doing Squawkers and Talkers.
I think you might manage to screw it up.
I'm not going to. Next, let's talk about HBO, the cable channel, dropping Vice News tonight, ending a 7-year relationship between HBO and Vice News. But many expect this will allow Vice to expand internationally.
Smooth.
Yeah?
I think this says more about ultimately AT&T, which owns HBO, their larger ambitions. I think if they're going to spend any money on news stuff or news-type content, they're probably thinking, well, why don't we spend more on CNN and what that might end up meaning for us on a streaming play versus, you know, a show that gets no more than 500,000 viewers a night. So I don't know why that. I think it makes sense from just pure numbers.
Tom, I'm going to screw it up right now. Tom, do you see a big difference between CNN and Vice? I don't see much there. Do you remember CNN when they did 24-hour news?
I remember when they did.
Do you watch it now? What would you call that now that you watch?
I am loyal to my CNBC, MSNBC.
So you're punting. You're punting.
But no, I will say, I actually thought that the Vice show on HBO was really good broadcast journalism. It was intended to appeal to younger viewers. So what Fox News has an average demographic of people 10 years into Medicare, and television news
like
for the
you?
most part.
What?
Uh-oh.
You want me to smack you for it?
CNBC just had its 30th anniversary. You can do the math. I'm not quite there
Tom,
yet.
I'm right there with you. All right. If I couldn't say it to you, I wouldn't. If we didn't, they're but for the grace of God, right?
But
that's not for whom the bell tolls.
You know, they do a lot of foreign news, a lot of news that isn't really showing up on television here, and attracting a young audience to television. Most young people, majority, are getting their news from social media and digital sources, and the idea that you could put together a television broadcast that attracts younger viewers to serious news, I thought was a pretty good thing in terms of the development of what people are looking at when they get information. I think that show will find a home in Hulu or somewhere else, and Vice will be just fine as an ongoing source of broadcast journalism. I never understood the fit with HBO. That didn't make much sense to me, that a franchise that people go to for entertainment on demand is also going to be a news show.
Ed, do you have a comment? Too right-wing for you, Vice?
Maybe not left-wing enough.
I'm not asking you whether.
I agree with Tom. I think it was a really nice product. Josh Tarangelo, who was the editor of that, did it really good. There's a new guy in charge for that, Jesse Angelo, who's the former publisher of the New York Post. So it might take on a slightly different flavor. Who knows? Okay. Maybe a little bit more in your direction.
Oh, we didn't have time for the third of it. It's not my fault.
See, I told
really
you,
don't think it's my fault. I don't think it's my. Were you ready?
Screwed that up.
I didn't screw that up, did I?
Screwed that up.
Tom?
We were going to talk about hockey,
Yeah.
how hockey beat the Tonys.
That's what we should do.
It's like saying what's going to win, a Bruce Springsteen free concert in Central Park versus a Picasso exhibit on the Met. What were we going to say about it?
The Gronies.
Dog bites me.
Congratulations to the Blues.
Thank you guys for coming in.
Did you know there was a hockey game? You knew that.
I watched, anyone but Boston, man. That's
anyone, ABB. Okay.
In last place in January and win the Stanley Cup. That's an incredible story.
You know there's something happening today, too. We don't need.
Oh boy, we're in
Pebble
trouble.
Beach. All right.
When we